Hi, Dr. Bardon. I just did this, but I hit photo instead of video, so take number whatever it is. Um, I hope your surgery and your recovery is going well. So my paper, my topic, my investigation is about the concept of Jihadi John, uh, or the person formerly known as Muhammad Imwazi, and how the idea of Jihadi John, the idea of the man behind the mask, took on a whole new meaning, especially in terms of neoliberal ideology. Uh, so my study is basically setting up Jihadi John as an ideograph. And once that occurs, then I'll use an image of positive association to juxtapose with the negative image or the image of negation, which is Jihadi John. Okay, so a little bit about the literature. There is McGee's idea of the ideograph. There is Wander's idea of the third persona. These are both great. They both analyze ideology. Obviously, this is rhetorical criticism, specifically an ideographic analysis or juxtaposition of negation versus positive association. Um, the artifact is, or the two ideographs that I'm going to be using, the U.S. flag and Jihadi John. So, what is this ideology stuff? Ideology, we both know what this is. It's basically the operating system of individuals who reside in certain cultures. Um, there can be multiple ideologies within one culture. Ideology, certain aspects of it can span differing cultures as well. Um, so we get into this idea of ideology, and the kind of ideology that we're going to be looking at is neoliberalism. That's defined by Santos and Joro as far as identity, the identity that's valid in neoliberalism, according to those two guys, is white, Christian, capitalist, male. Um, so that's neoliberalism, that's ideology. Ideographs, according to McGee, are slogans or words that don't have a direct, uh, they might have a definition, but they don't have a direct connotation within the public. They're meaningless except for their ability to hold association to other things. For instance, the U.S. flag, or democracy, or equality, or liberty. These are all, there are dictionary definitions, but when you ask people, it means something different. You'll get a different definition. And uh, especially with ideographs, what this means is they're kind of free floating. They change. Um, and McGee said that the ideographs were basically just words. He only limited them to words. But Edwards and Winkler, they took issue with this. They said that according to his own 4-point criteria, um, that visual images could do this. Uh, they they went through Rosenthal's videograph of Iwo Jima and set that up as an ideograph. They also said that the U.S. flag was an ideograph. Um, the U.S. flag has values of liberty, equality, democracy, um, pretty much everything that's good about America. Hardworking, etc., justice, rule of law. And we then get into the idea of Jihadi John. And so the first thing that I have to really talk about is Edwards and Winkler's idea of the four requirements for something to be to meet to become a visual ideograph. The first one is that the information has to be disseminated throughout the public. Edwards and Winkler call this ordinary information. Um, and this is definitely the case with Jihadi John. Jihadi John is probably more recognizable at this point than is Iwo Jima, especially to like millennials. Um, that's not to say that it won't be any different in 10 years. That's just to say at this current moment in time that Jihadi John is probably more noticed, has had more salience. Um, the second area is this idea of collective commitment. And this collective commitment is not like collective commitment to action, it's collective commitment to memory. This is the idea that there is a common association about a particular term. Jihadi John definitely does this. There is a collective commitment. When people see Jihadi John, they think pretty much like everything that Edward Said and Dana Cloud write about. They think that there is an incompatibility between the Islamic other and the West. So there is that association. That is the collective commitment. When they see someone in that black garb, it causes certain things to happen in their memory. The third one is the power and social manipulation, or the ability to control social behavior. Jihadi John does this. It does this because of the collective memory, the collective commitment that has occurred. This casting basically allows for a rally around the flag effect. We see this all the time in many other wars. We saw this in World War II, towards towards the Japanese, towards the Nazis. We also see it in their propaganda against the United States as well. So Jihadi John is essentially a new version of this, except there's a little bit of a different nuance here. Um, the last area is that, one second. The last area. So this is frustrating. I just forgot my last area. Well, okay, so the last area is oh yeah, that it has to be culturally bound. Okay, so basically what that means is that Jihadi John means something different to me than it does maybe to someone who didn't grow up in the West, or maybe someone who didn't grow up within the valorized identity of neoliberalism. So for me, as a white guy, um, I'm not Christian, but we don't have to get into that. Um, there's certain connotations that when I see Jihadi John, he represents kind of like this threatening anarchical other, especially to my identity, and the ideographs associated with Jihadi John, according to Dana Cloud and Edward Said, when they're talking about framings of Muslims, is that they're irrational. That's the first framing carried out through the media. That they're barbarous and savage. That's the other one. That they don't know how to treat their women right. And that they're not capable of being educated. Uh, and these are important later on when we talk about in comparison with the flag. So we're going to go to the flag now. It's really interesting. In 1977, the United States House of Representatives published a book about the U.S. flag. And in this book, they described what the color scheme means. So on white, white means purity and innocence. I kid you not. The It actually means white. The white means purity. Frank Wilderson says that when you ascribe purity to being white, that means that only white people can have the identity of being pure. The the next thing, the red, means hard work. And what this is essentially denoting is Christian work ethic, right? So not only do you have to be white, you have to be Christian. And then the final one, the blue, they say equals the chief. So not only you have to be white, not only you have to be, Christian, nah, you also have to be male. Notice how easily this replicates what Santos and Giroux say the valid identity of neoliberalism is. So the flag, in essence, according to like Wilderson and some other critical race theorists, essentially inscribes white identity into the flag. All right, and again, we have the ideographic values or ideological values attached to the flag as being equality, liberty, and democracy. Okay, so the bad, again, to review, the bad values for Jihadi John, set up as an ideograph, is that Muslims are irrational, they're misogynist, they're incapable of learning, and they're barbarous savages. Okay, so that's what we have, the two different ideographs. And so now we're going to apply Wunder's third persona. And this is where we get into the idea of asking who's been negated, what identity has been negated. So when we look at the flag and we ask this, what identity has been negated? Remember, this is a little bit different because it is an ideograph of positive association, which means the way it valorizes identity or demonizes identity is differently. On positive association, they don't outwardly demonize. It's like a behind covert type of thing. The way the demonization, the way the otherization happens is by saying like the flag means purity, it means white, it means male, right? And it says that there's a valued identity. And the flip side to this is that there is not there's only one kind of identity. All other identities are excluded. Okay. So the way the image of negation works is it actually brings forth what it's saying is bad, um, and this is operating with Dana Cloud and Said in their critique of Huntington's A Clash of Civilization and Barber's Jihad versus McWorld. It's this whole idea that we're incompatible with our cultures are incompatible with one another, and so what we see through Wonder, to bring this back, is we see that Muslim identity is excluded, specifically with Jihadi John in this. Essentially, what is happening with Jihadi John is we're putting a mask on the entire culture of Muslim, of Islam, of the Middle East, and making it a monolithic thing, to say that they're all militant, that they're all uneducated, they're all barbarous and savage. When it can be further from the truth, because Muhammad Imwazi was actually highly educated, was not from the Middle East to begin with, but from the West. Um, so this negative, this negation, the way it works on the ideographic level is it makes these values of security huge, and then it devalues, when we're internalizing them, it devalues equality, liberty, and democracy for the Islamic other. On the positive, especially when you're talking about people residing whose privilege is a position of whose position is a privilege, um, liberty is bigger, right? When you're looking at this identity, liberty must be upheld, and then security is a small, like little pinpoint on the coordinal axis of neoliberal ideology. Um, so what we see here is identity being excluded because they are shrinking the more humane evaluations of and considerations of life. And this gets into like Michael Dillon's, like once you devalue an entire culture, you can sacrifice them on the altar of collateral damage. It becomes the end point of Holocaust, because then you can calculate there is something and an endpoint to where you can do this. And this is all sort of my conclusion. Limitation is that this is not quantitative. I cannot generalize beyond anything other than the American flag and Jihadi John. I do think for future directions, this is great. It's fantastic. It gives an ability for us to label words and have content analysis, to see ideographs and to see whether it's positive or negative association that is going on. And this is key to activists and scholars in the future.